Today's Cowboys Report is made possible by 8 Sleep. I've always slept pretty well. My wife has not so much. But the 8 Sleep Pod 3 cover brings heating and cooling tech. Helps keep you comfortable and sleeping deeper for a better, more restful night. More on them in today's show, which is all about one CeeDee Lamb. The report from the Dallas Morning News this morning is that Lamb is expected to hold out from Cowboys voluntary workout, which isn't actually a holdout, but it's, potato to a certain extent there, and could actually skip the mandatory stuff as he looks and waits for a new contract, a large one, from the Dallas Cowboys. We'll break all of this down for you on today's show. But first, who here wants to pay CeeDee Lamb? I know I do. Who else is in a similar boat? If you are, flood the comment section by typing me right now. We'll show the Cowboys what we want this offseason. This was the big meat of the report from Michael Gelkin. The Cowboys will start their spring workout program April 15th. Barring a contract extension that, when complete, is expected to make Lamb the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, Lamb won't take the field. At least, that is the precedent he appears certain to follow. So 2 big notes from that. A, the voluntary workout skipping, and the highest paid wide receiver in history. Of note, here are the offseason dates coming up for the Dallas Cowboys as we get into workout season, etc. Offseason workouts, the voluntary stage, begin on April 15th. Now, those go for a while. It's just the workouts. It's pretty straightforward. It's voluntary. Teams want you there because you're working out with your players. Not to say that Lamb hasn't already been working on the side with Dak in his backyard, which I expect to be the case. Obviously, Brandon Cooks tweeted about it. OTAs, organized team activities, May 21, 22, 23, 29th, 30th, and 31st. Those are also technically voluntary. The first mandatory appearance is on June 4th. That goes until the 6th. That is fine-worthy. Then big fine-worthy at training camp. Late July, the exact dates TBD, 20-something or other. That date, the training camp date, is your first real, maybe you want to give a half date to the minicamp, but your first real date of, hey, this is the deadline, or at least a deadline when things could start to get really messy, as we saw with Zach Martin last year. A lot more on this to come, but will CeeDee Lamb have the contract extension done before training camp? Y for yes, N for no. It is the pinned comment on this video. The ad comes on YouTube. That's fine. Ignore the ad. Nobody cares. Go vote instead. Y or N. Now, CeeDee Lamb is repped by Tory Dandy of CAA. That is noteworthy because there are 3 other recently highly paid wide receivers who are in a similar boat. They were coming off their first contract. They were trying to get highest paid wide receiver or close to highest paid wide receiver money. That was A.J. Brown, who held out from the voluntary stage. Now, look, it's not a holdout. But it is, though. I'm going to call it a holdout, even though you're not mandated to be there. It's voluntold activities, right? He held out for those, then was traded during the NFL draft. DK Metcalf held out, got paid. Deebo Samuel held out, briefly got paid. Metcalf skipped minicamp, held in for training camp, got paid then. Deebo skipped the voluntary stuff, got paid right before the start of training camp. The difference there is none of those guys had a season that CeeDee Lamb just put up. A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel are all, I think, legitimate wide receiver ones. Maybe put Deebo in the athlete one category. That is certainly fine. CeeDee Lamb is coming off a 1,700-yard season. He had 12 touchdowns, 135 catches. He has gotten better in every single statistical output category, every single season. There is no doubt this is a premier wide receiver one. Frankly, it's I think the disaster of the Cowboys' outside free agency has distracted us a little bit from the fact that they haven't paid him yet, and that's really dumb because it would have benefited them to get that deal done sooner. So we will take a look at, I think this does get done at some point. We know how the Cowboys operate. What a deal we'll likely look at here, knowing it's going to be hella expensive and there's sticker shock. We will break that down for you after a word from today's sponsor, 8 Sleep. I actually slept great last night despite my 2-year-old, almost 2.5-year-old now, Once again, getting up well before 7 a.m., and that was thanks in part to 8 Sleep. Did you know that sleep science shows in order to sleep our best, our body temperature needs to drop in the early and middle part of sleep and then rise in the morning? The 8 Sleep Pod cover will improve your sleep by automatically adjusting your bed's temperature based on your individual needs. The cover is added to a bed like a fitted sheet is and allows you and your partner to cool or warm your side of the bed as low as 55 degrees and up to 110 degrees. There's no better way to improve your day-to-day life than with better sleep. And the easiest way is with the 8 Sleep Pod 3. So go to 8sleep.com/chatsports and get $200 off plus free shipping on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. Start the new year right and invest in the rest you deserve with the 8 Sleep Pod. The link, 8sleep.com/chatsports, will be in the comment section and the description of today's Cowboys Report. Here are the highest paid wide receivers on a per-year basis. Tyreek Hill leads the way at $30 million. Devontae Adams second, Cooper Kupp third. As we'll get into, that Tyreek Hill deal, it does carry an asterisk. It's not really 30. I think that might be a sticking point for some of these wide receiver contracts. And it's A.J. Brown and Metcalf and Deebo. Recent guys, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, all getting $23 or more million, which is just insane because those guys are not, I'm not even sure the receiver ones, but they're close to it. From a guaranteed money perspective, Cooper Kupp, big figures there. They kind of redid his contracts pretty early, so high guarantees wasn't a huge surprise there. Tyreek Hill, again, was the trade and extension option. Amari Cooper was pretty highly ranked because they've restructured money as they've gone along to guarantee him more figures. A.J. Brown actually just barely behind DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, but you're talking less than $1 million total from that perspective. Now, that $30 million per year for Tyreek Hill, it's kind of fake. There's $45 million in non-guaranteed money in the final year of the contract for Tyreek Hill. Now, he's making, it was a 4-year, $120 million extension. 45 of that's kind of fake. So you start to get to a more reasonable number relative to that perspective. Despite that, I would expect CeeDee Lamb to become the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. Here is my contract idea, and there's one particular contract comp in mind that I think makes a lot of sense. I think this is really more of the baseline number. And if Lamb wants to go a little bit higher, you probably do that for reasons we'll get into. It's a 4-year deal, 122 point, it's actually 6'8", but I'm a child, so I made it 0.69 because it's funny. Immature person here. So I just added up the 0.01 because it's funnier. $30.67 million per year. That surpasses Tyreek Hill by a little bit. The guaranteed money puts him almost at the exact same spot of Tyreek Hill. The difference is that 4th year isn't going to be fake. It's not going to be $45 million, massive jump in non-guaranteed money. It's going to be real money. And the reason is this is almost a 1-to-1 contract for what A.J. Brown got as the highest paid wide receiver. I boosted the guaranteed money a little bit. Back in 2022. When A.J. Brown got $25 million per year that year, with the rise in the salary cap, adjusting for the inflation there, it's roughly $30.67 million per year. So you take the A.J. Brown contract, you boost it for the increase in salary cap space, and see if that gets it done. And I actually think it'd probably be pretty close. Maybe you hem and haw over a few details, a few $1 million here and there. But that is a good starting point for CeeDee Lamb, and it allows him to say, I got the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history. That's, I think, a win for all parties involved. And as we'll get into, if you do it sooner, save money. You avoid the drama of a holdout. Something the Cowboys aren't very familiar with, though. Now, when the Cowboys make moves, or at least when they make draft picks at this point, we will have videos for you. We'll be live for the NFL draft as well, by the way. Hit that sub button right now, youtube.com/@CowboysTV. Now, CeeDee Lamb is not the only wide receiver due for a massive contract. Justin Jefferson and his deal might even be significantly larger than CeeDee Lamb's, depending on the timing. Brandon Aiyuk, Tee Higgins, and probably not this year, but next year, Ja'Marr Chase. There's a real chance if you pay Lamb now, if you overpay now, quote unquote, that 2 to 3 or more receivers are making more than CeeDee Lamb within a year of that contract being signed. That's how you get the deal done. And you win the deal, Steven. Look, the players and really their agents here do often want to be the last to get paid. Within reason. They don't want to be the last to get paid and miss games or whatever, because it typically means more money. This is the battle, the business side that exists between players / their agents, they hire agents to handle the messy stuff, and the NFL organizations and their salary cap and their negotiators, etc. In the end, it is up to the team to get an offer good enough to sign, and this team in particular has a tendency to struggle with that. There's a pretty common path this team tends to go when it comes to contracts. The path one is player comes to the team and says, hey, I'll take a team-friendly deal, and those get done pretty quickly. It's Lyle Collins. It's Jalen Smith. It's Terrence Steele. Though it's Trayvon Diggs. Those deals tend to get done quickly because the Cowboys win the deal. But when the top-end players want to get all of their money, it tends to not be nearly as smooth. More on that in a minute. But would you make CeeDee Lamb the highest paid wide receiver right now? 1 for yes, 2 for no. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments section. When it comes to those bigger players who aren't going to take the team-friendly deal, here's how things tend to go for guys like even Zach Martin. Saw it with DeMarcus Lawrence, Amari Cooper. They let hit free agency. How wild that was. They traded a first-round pick for Amari Cooper and almost lost him to the Commanders. Dak Prescott, it's about to be twice now, by the way. Step number 1, they will cite the salary cap concerns. We only got so much pie. Step number 2, they will lowball the player. They do that pretty consistently as well, and that tends to piss off the agents. Number 3, they don't want to set the market. They have made that public comment before, that they don't want to be market setters because all the things that go into being a Cowboy, they don't think they have to. They will then let others in the same position get paid. And then, eventually, because deadlines make deals, they will cave. And agents know this. They know if they wait, the Cowboys will eventually give the large offer that they wanted originally. They did it with Dak. They did it with Tank Lawrence. They did it with Amari Cooper. Waiting gets the players paid instead of the team being more proactive and getting stuff done. By the way, we've already gotten to step number 1 in this process. Here's what Jerry Jones said about CeeDee Lamb a couple weeks ago at NFL owner meetings. He's out there and he's more valuable than anybody else. But that valuable, take 4 or 5 players to have him, you have to get that reconciled. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a lot quicker and easier said than done. Whoever has CeeDee, and I hope it's us, they're going to use him. You have to. You got to get that mileage out of him. He's shown us he's capable of carrying that load. We got to have focus. Now, that was spun into, trade? No. It's Jerry doing his pie BS again. Frankly, this deal, the Cowboys, if you weren't going to spend shit in free agency, you should have been actively trying to get this deal done first. Instead, they did not meet with CeeDee Lamb's agent at the NFL Combine. Stephen Jones told us that. They're not operating with urgency. They still think that the agents will come to them. Dumb. You could have saved $13 million in salary cap space this year. You could have signed players that could have helped your team right now. Now, I don't want to hear the BS from this franchise about, our 2025 cap's in bad shape. No, it's not. Depending on what the number ends up being, you've got anywhere from $85 to $100 million in salary cap space. Even with the massive dead money cap hit for Dak Prescott, you can get rid of most of that if you just pay him. You're not paying anybody big money right now. Terrence Steele is on the books for $17 million. He didn't restructure his contract. You could cut him if he's bad again and save money. Trayvon Diggs is $14.25. Micah's fifth-year option is around $21 million. A Lamb franchise tag would run you $24.76. If you pay CeeDee Lamb right now, the next 2 years of salary cap hits are going to be cheaper than his fifth-year option and franchise tag. This organization absolutely, unequivocally, undoubtedly can easily afford an extension for CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons and Dak Prescott if they want, and other players. the longer this team waits, the more a CeeDee Lamb extension ends up costing. So, you know what? I kind of hope Lamb holds out. I don't want him to, but I want him paid. So hopefully that is the impetus this organization needs to get a deal that should have already been done.